Okay, so now anyway, we'll start our discussion. So if you remember, the last class, so we have discussed about.
Sir, I have one question.
Tell me.
Sir, let's
Go ahead.
say I got some data and I don't know what is the parent distribution, whether it's log normal or log normal or some other thing. So then how can I mean, how to come up with the real, I mean, how to predict how the extreme values will be, like in what type of distribution it will follow?
No, no, like how many samples you have, data samples. We are having data, no? How many data points are there?
Sir, it is just a question. I don't have any data that from that I'm getting out. I thought in case
No, no.
somebody just
Followed. What you told is correct only. So what I'm suggesting you is, if you have very less samples, say, like for example, 10 samples or 20 samples, say. So with the 20 samples, you cannot predict the parent distribution and others. With 20 samples, you can at the most, you can estimate correctly the mean value. You followed.
yes.
Suppose if 50 samples or 60 are there, say, then maybe you can go ahead the standard deviation also you can predict only the first two moments. You cannot comment on the parent distribution, that is very difficult, or maybe from physics, you have to assume what is this and what is that one. Now suppose if you're having more than 100 or maybe 200, 300 samples, so what's the best thing you can do is you can plot a histogram, okay, and then from the histogram, say, you can identify it what type of distribution it is, whether it is normal or a log normal or a uniform or whatever. So you can assume. So once you know the distribution, say, now your question is on extreme values, no?
So actually, like for example, somebody gave me mean and standard deviation.
Yeah.
Like let's say we actually don't know what is the parent distribution. So I
Okay.
just have the moments. So maybe if I use three different distribution like the type 1 or type 2 to type 3, I'll be
Hmm.
getting probability for the extreme value like different probability.
Yes,
Then
yes.
how do
No,
I
with
say
mean
which
and
one is
standard
correct?
deviation, you cannot proceed, with mean and standard deviation. By just knowing mean and standard deviation, you can't pursue.
Oh, okay, sir.
Or you have to make some assumption.
So like
Say, like
that
for
should
example,
how
say, no, no, like for example, the wind speed. Okay, so wind
yes.
speed or compressive strength of concrete or whatever. Say now you don't know any way things. Say you know only the mean and standard deviation. So what is that? You can assume the parent distribution. Say rainfall data, compressive strength of concrete, or wind speed or whatever you have. Say the thing, but the best thing you can assume is because all of these things are all positive, right? Quantities. You
Yes.
can assume them to be log normal.
Log
Maybe the
normal.
best assumption. Now, if it is log normal, say, so it will be a polynomial tail only. Okay, so
Yes.
polynomial tail means it goes to type 2. You follow?
Yes. Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
so like that you can go ahead. Okay, so that is how you have to do follow, right?
Yes.
But knowing only two things, it will be very difficult. So you have to make some assumptions. Then only you can go to come to a common conclusion. Okay.
Yes.
So anyway, so now last class, we have discussed about this Monte Carlo simulation also. I showed you Monte Carlo, not only reliability, general case, every time, we use this Monte Carlo. So the starting point is how to generate these random variables, So we have discussed, right? The correlated, how to discuss uncorrelated. So you generate now all we have said was all the computers say. So they have a chip which is inbuilt inside and it can generate uniform random numbers only. But if you want to generate normal, log normal, or whatever, so you have to do the transformations. Okay, so use that, you can do that one, and then you do the simulations, and then you can get your answers. And then finally we said that how many number of samples is required. So we have some approximate expressions are there, like if you want to estimate very low probabilities, say like 10 to the power of -4 and others, so your number of simulations required will be very large actual. Okay, suppose if the probabilities are very small, say 0.1 or this one, so the number of samples may be very less actual. Okay, so this also answers Namita, you told, right, with how much data points you can predict, where the question was there, no, to get a mean value, to
Yes.
get a probability. So this itself will tell you. If you want extreme values, you just see here, extreme means 10 to the power of -4, right? So now what,
Yes.
for 10 to the power of -4, how many samples are required? 9,900 or more than that. So then only you will be able to get a good result. If you don't have data, best thing is you make some assumption, some physics, you take it and then you can do it. Okay. Now coming to correlated also we discussed. So correlated means just your eigenvalue, eigenvector, whatever you have studied, that itself you can use, and you can generate, and then you can do this one. And last class we also discussed Latin hypercube sampling. Okay, so instead of doing 9,900, 10,000 simulations, you can still decrease the number of simulations by intelligently picking the values. Okay, so we said you divide it into the 4 intervals and then pick value from each interval, and then you do it properly. Okay, so this is one method, Latin hypercube. So if 9,900 samples are required, say, so with Latin hypercube, with some 1,000 samples itself, you may be able to get a nice the estimate of those movements and whatever things you want. Okay, this is the most important thing. Then we have also seen this Rosenbluth, this method also. So this method is only movements, you can't get probability. Like we have already said, right? So you take mean value, you have to evaluate the function at the mean values, m plus sigma, m minus sigma, and then from that you can obtain the estimates. Okay, so that is how these methods also are there. So now with this, you see, we have almost discussed all the the ingredients. I will just summarize before we go to this one. So we have discussed right now the probability, all of you know the definition of probability and all those things we have seen. Then random variables we have discussed. Then 2D, 3D followed, right? 2-dimensional, 1-dimensional things we have seen, and commonly encountered, say, okay, that type of random variables also we have seen. So like normal, log normal, all those things also we have discussed. Okay, then we have also discussed this Monte Carlo, so these type of methods also we have, and of course our extreme values also we have discussed. A variety kind of things also we have seen. So extreme value, functions of random variables, all the fundamental things we have discussed. Okay. Then the Monte Carlo, all these things we have discussed. So now with this background, say, now we can go towards reliability analysis. Okay. So this is our the next this one. So now let us see, let us define reliability. That is what essentially you followed, right? This course is about. Okay, so how to calculate reliability and all other things itself. So now reliability says, so to do this reliability, the first thing what you should understand is, the definition of failure basically. Okay, so this one has to know what do you mean by failure generally. Okay, and now in IS 800, if you see the building codes, say what word they use for failure. So what is the state they use, right? Some word, the some states they use actually. Some this state of reliability, or state of serviceability, state of strength, and other things we use. Okay, what do you call? What is the right the failure as?
Limit state.
Limit state. Okay. So people use this limit state. So you would have already seen. Okay, so this limit state, say. So this is used to define a failure. A failure. So this word limit state, say, it comes from structure reliability only. Okay, so the context of reliability analysis. So this word has been borrowed from the reliability analysis. Okay, so now a limit state, say, it is just defined, it is a boundary basically. So between desired and undesired, so it is basically between desired as undesired, or say performance of a structure. Okay, so this is what is the concept of limit state you followed, right? So this is what we say. So now this boundary, say, whatever we are discussing, this boundary between unsafe and safe or whatever. So generally mathematically, we call this boundary, say, as limit state function, limit state function, or performance function. So previously also we have solved some problems, but anyway, performance function. Okay, so this is a so the limit state function, the boundary, say, between safe and unsafe or whatever. So this is what we call as, you see, the limit state function, or the performance function, you see, we also call this one as. So now here in the limit states, you say, So we already know that there are several limit states are possible actually. Okay, so types of limit states. So like in our IS 800, right, limit state of strength, limit state of serviceability will be there. So we have so many will come into picture. Ultimate limit states, we say. So this is something like ultimate limit state. So this is like loss of the load carrying capacity. Say. So this it comes under the ultimate limit state. So like for example exceeding the movement capacity. You followed. So like for plastic hinge formation, say plastic hinge formation or crushing of concrete. Even buckling basically. Okay, so buckling of flange, web, so all these things, etc. Like so many you can see where rupture, like you see so many things you can see the loss of load carrying capacity. Say we call this as ultimate limit state. The other one is you all of serviceability limit state. Okay, so already you would have studied in IS 800. So serviceability limit state means what do you mean by serviceability? Yeah. So what are the requirements for serviceability limit state?
Deflection.
Deflection, that is excessive, any of you remember in IS 800, what is the limit for excessive deflection? They would have given a table, right? If the span is L, say, like you see L by 300, L by 400, L by 800, they give you all these, the limits itself, okay? So it should not exceed this much, this one. So excessive deflection, then excess vibration also. So this, when you are designing a bridge, say, okay? So bridge or whatever's excessive vibration, due to vehicular traffic or even if there is due to an earthquake, say, your structure can vibrate. So we will be having these type of limit states also. Serviceability excess, this one, then permanent deformations also. Okay. So sometimes, when you apply a load on a beam, say, okay, at some point, let us say it has exceeded the elastic limit. So the things, it goes into plastic range, and then if you are keep on applying the load, so you will see some small amounts of kinks, permanent deformations also. So this also, all these things, comes under the serviceability limit state. Then we have cracking. Okay, the crackings basically. So you may have cracks, like there will be limit state is too much cracking, although the structure may be safe, but if there is a too much cracking, say, so it will give some other issues will come into picture. So the serviceability limit state means all these things comes into this limit state. Now the third type of thing is essentially not required for ordinary buildings or something. Fatigue also we have. Okay, the fatigue limit state also. So when a repetitive, the loading and other things are there, say, the loss of strength, how due to repetitive loads. Like if you are designing turbines, all those things where things are moving and these loads are there, say, repeated loads. So the fatigue limit state also will be there. So like that you can define, whatever limit states are there, but these are the things which are widely used in practice or in our building codes. Okay. So now let us define, the performance function or how to limit state functions also. So how do we define this limit state function or performance functions? Yeah, so now in a performance functions, last time itself, we have discussed this performance function. So if you are having, let R represents, say, okay, the resistance. Or movement carrying capacity or whatever, and Q represent load effect. So now what is a performance function? No. So what is the performance function for this or limit state function for this? Say it is basically function of the load and then resistance. Okay, so what is the performance function here? Now, so
R
what is
minus
meant by
Q.
failure? R minus Q. R, what? How do you can write? R minus Q also you can write. What is the other way to write this one? We have discussed it previously.
Yes, R by Q.
So R by Q also you can take less than 0 or 1 or something you followed it. You can do in both the cases. Okay. And now we all know that if this G of these functions, if it is greater than 0, okay, that means, the structure is safe. So if it is less than 0, you followed, right? So this is, unsafe and undesired, the performance or whatever. So this is a simple, the limit state function or the performance function itself. Now, since we are saying that, R and Q, if they are random variables, say, they are not one number, so you will have a lot of, uncertainty with this one, So then, the performance function, if this is for a deterministic variables, you can write like this. If they are random variables, say, then, so we write as, we try to find out in terms of probability of failure, which is defined as, R minus Q, it should is less than 0, or probability, say, G less than 0 itself. Okay, so this is a performance function. Okay, so we can define the performance function, say, like this also, the probability of the G less than 0 itself. So now, so this is how we can define, and R and Q, if they are continuous random variables, say. Okay, so it is something like this. Okay, so we have this is our this one. So the load effect, say, is essentially like this. Okay, so this is my Q, they are random variable, and I have resistance also. So this is my R. Say now both of them are the uncertain or the random variables are there. So now the performance function or the probability of failure, say, where is the probability of failure? How to compute the probability of failure? So now you have to find out all the scenarios where my R minus Q is less than 0 or R is less than Q itself. So which is the region here?
Intersecting region.
So this overlapping you followed, right? The portion itself. Okay, this is a probability of failure. Or if you want to write in terms of R minus Q, say, so that is a Q and R is fine. You can also write R minus Q, then that the thing becomes is like this. Okay, so this is my R minus R. I will write separately. Yeah. Or you can write like this also. Or I can write R minus Q, say. I can also write like this. So this is R minus Q. Okay. So now here, so this portion, say, less than 0. So this is my probability of the failure basically. Okay. So this quantity, say, this is what we call as the probability of failure. So this is my, so this portion is the safety margin. Okay. So this is how we calculate. So this is our limit state function when the things are random variables also. Now here what happens is so now we are having R and Q only. But generally load means not one load. You may have several loads also. Dead load, live load, wind load, earth load, or resistance, say. It also depends like Fy into Z or your section modulus, say. So then your moment of inertia, other things also may be random. You may be having the so many random variables may be there. So the state of my structure, say. So the state of structure you can be described basically, okay, by so many random variables, say, by various parameters. X1, X2, X3, like this. So many random variables if you write, then my performance function simply R and Q was there. But since R and Q itself contains so many random variables, so then my performance function will be X1, X2 of all these random variables. So this has to be greater than 0. Then the structure is safe. And if it is equal to 0, say, okay, so this is the boundary. border or the boundary basically. Between safe or whatever, and of course if it is less than 0 say, then it is unsafe. Okay, so if there are two random variables, anyway r minus q, it is very simple, but your r and q itself may contain so many parameters, they themselves may be random. Then you may be having several random variables will be there. Then you can define the performance function, it will be a multi dimensional kind of a thing you will have also. So like for example, as already we said, my performance function say, okay, so g if there are two only are there, so I can write this as r minus q, r I can also write this as r by q say minus 1. So this way also we can write this one, or if I write resistance say, okay, so I can write this function as if r is f and z, okay, so then I can write this as fy into z minus q. So then you will be having three random variables. Fy also can be random, section modulus can be random, load also can be random. Now even I can expand this load effect also. We can also write this function as fy, then z, then dead load, live load, wind load, earthquake loads. I can make all these things also. Fy minus z minus d minus l minus w minus e itself. So this is my performance function. If there are more number of random variables, say, so we expand and then we write in all these in the big expressions itself. So now in reliability theory, say, the whole reliability theory is essentially in calculating this probability of failure. Okay, so given my loads are uncertain, given my strength is also uncertain, what is the probability of failure for a this for a given structure? So reliability analysis is essentially how to calculate this probability of failure itself. Okay, so if you know the probability of failure, so then you can do insurance or whatever other things itself you can make your priority. So now how to calculate this probability of failure? So this is how to calculate this probability of failure. So now if it is a linear, normal, and things may be simple, but in reality, say things may be non-linear, then they may not be normal. So then how do we calculate this probability of failure? So which is a very, very important challenge in reliability analysis. So what we do is like this. So let us see this one. So g r minus q, say r minus q. This is my this one. So now to calculate this probability of failure, so what we said was a failure means the load exceeds resistance actually. Okay. So now suppose for a given r, say, so if r is for a given value of r, let us say r is equal to ri. So r, let us say if r is a particular value ri, say, okay. So now we want to find out the probability of failure. So r is, if it is not random, say, so if it r is only ri, so only load is random, then my probability of failure will be probability, the q, say, the load is greater than ri. So this is my probability for a given resistance value. What is the probability that the load will be more than this ri? So that will give me the probability of failure itself. But since we are saying that r is also random variables, so there are several ri's are possible. Okay, so several the values are possible. So then we calculate like this. So among all possible combinations, say, so my probability of failure is essentially so sigma. Okay, so you have to calculate r is equal to ri. Okay, intersection q should be more than ri. Okay, so this is what we call as a probability of failure basically. So for a given value, if ri is a deterministic, say load is only random and there is only one value of ri, say, so simply probability the load is more than this ri will be my probability of failure. But if r is also random variable and several ri's are possible, say, so now among all these possible ri's, the combination where r is equal to that particular value, and for that value if q is greater than ri, say, so this and you sum up over all those regions, so you will get the probability of failure itself. Okay, so now this is intersection, so it is like probability of you see a intersection b itself. So what is the probability of A intersection B? You remember when we discussed long back using a conditional probability, we wrote this expression. What is that expression? Any of you remember in terms of conditional probability? See, what is the probability of A intersection B in terms of a conditional probability? P of A given B. See, what is the P of A given B? You remember long back.
P of A intersection B divided by probability of B.
P of B. Yeah, excellent. So P of A intersection B will be P of A given B multiplied by P of B itself. You followed. So now this also, so this expression says. So now what we are saying is for a given Ri, you can find out Q greater than Ri is a probability of failure. Now Ri itself is random, so several values are there. So among all possible values of Ri, those values of Ri for which Q is greater than Ri say. So and then you sum over all those regions, that will give you the probability of failure. So this expression using my that conditional probability and others, I can write this as probability say Q greater than R given R is equal to Ri. So it is like a probability of A given B multiplied by P of B itself. Probability of R is equal to Ri. So I can write my expression in this format actually. Now this is for discrete random variables. Now suppose if it is a continuous, if Ri is also continuous, then the summation becomes a integral basically. Okay. So this expression, so we can write this as, so for everything is continuous. So we can write this expression as, and of course this quantity, the probability Q greater than R given R is equal to Ri. So this I can write this as 1 minus say probability Q less than or equal to R given R is equal to Ri. Okay. Or this expression I can also write this as 1 minus P. Oh, sorry. 1 minus P this Q. Okay. Given Ri. So this I can write this expression, this quantity say. So this we can write in terms of like that. Now this expression say what is the probability of R is equal to Ri? Yeah. So if Ri is like this, okay. So this is my Ri say. So what's the probability of P R is equal to Ri? So this is basically essentially R is equal to Ri say. So if this is my distribution, so at R is equal to Ri. Okay. So if I take a small area, say I can write this expression as so P of R is equal to Ri is essentially a small region. So P of R Ri multiplied by Dri. Okay, so this I can write this area. So this small region itself. So substitute everything. So my probability of failure this becomes minus infinity to plus infinity because that summation is goes to integral. So 1 minus P, the probability distribution function for Q, and substituted at Ri multiplied by the probability density function PR of Ri multiplied by Dri. Okay, or you can also write this expression as what will be the first quantity minus infinity to plus infinity if you multiply say. So PR of Ri Dri minus infinity to plus infinity. So PQ of Ri PR of Ri into Dri. What is the value of this integral? The first term. What is the value of this first term? What is the integral? It is 1 because the area under the probability density function is 1. So this turns out to be 1 minus minus infinity to plus infinity PQ of Ri and then PR of Ri and Dri actually. So this is how we can calculate the probability of failure actually. Okay. Now here how did we calculate? So now what we started was Q and R are random variables only. What we did is we assumed Q is fine, but for a given value of Ri we calculated like this, and then we made it discrete and then we made it continuous, and finally we got this expression. Now the same thing you can you assume R as random, you can start working with the Q itself also. That is another alternative that also one can do. Both of them are same one. Another alternative is you fix Q is equal to Qi. Okay, and then the failure say, what is meant by failure? If resistance is less than this Qi say, that means my structure is unsafe. Okay, So now we write like this. So the probability of failure say. So this is I can write this as a summation. Probability of Q is equal to Qi. For individual and intersection, you see R should be less than Qi. So if Q is also random say, so among all possible values of Q's, the values which where for which you see R is less than Qi, that itself is, and then you sum up over all the regions say. So that gives me this probability of failure. So this also probability of A intersection B, whatever we did previously, P of A by B multiplied by P of B, you can use that expression. So this can be written as probability say R less than Q given Q is equal to Qi multiplied by probability of Q is equal to Qi actually. Okay. So then this is a discrete, you make it continuous say. So this goes towards the integration kind of thing. So minus infinity to infinity. So this is a PR of Qi multiplied by the density function say. So PQ of Qi into dQi. So all of so this is nothing but the area, like the same concept say we used here. So same way you do this calculations say. So finally I can do the write the expression like this. So this is one way to calculate the probability of failure. Other way we wrote there itself. So all you can calculate minus minus infinity to infinity. So PQ of Ri and then the density function actually of Ri. You followed. So both are same only, but you can see the difference here. So here you are having the probability distribution function for R and then the density function of Q actually. Now in this expression, I am having probability distribution function for Q and then the density function for the R. So you can use this expression or you can use this expression. So these are the general expressions to calculate the probabilities. So here we have not assumed what type of random variables they are, what type of relationship they are. We have not assumed anything. Okay, so assumed only Q and R, two random variables say. So this way you can calculate our the probability of failure itself. So this way you can calculate the probability of failure very the simple itself. Now if we have more number of random variables say, so then you have to do like as already I told you, right? You can have so many random variables are there say. So generally the mathematical expression will be simply more random variables. So the generalized the expression I am writing. So there are more random variables. So my probability of failure will be simply so many integrals will be there. So right now you are having only two random variables, so Q and then R. Okay, but if there are so many random variables, so then you have to do so many the integrations basically. So px of you have to get their conditional joint density function. You have to find out that multi-dimensional density function. You have to do dx1 dx2 up to dxn, and then this area has to be integrated over this region basically. Okay, the less than 0. So this will give you the probability of failure itself. Okay, so if there are more random variables, then the things becomes much more the complex. But for two random variables, so you can easily write in this format itself. Now the problem here, what we try to do is, the main problem here say. So as already I told you, like today Namita also asked, right? The main problem is, it is a very in practice say the data will be very small, essential in civil engineering. Okay, because if you are doing man-made experiments, and experiments are expensive. So what happens is, you may not be able to do a lot of experiments, or you may not be able to collect a lot of data itself. So now to estimate probability of failure, you require the these distributions or the density functions are required. And now in practice, it's very difficult. We don't know what type of distributions they are, what type of density functions they are, their parent distributions with those data set. It is very difficult with very little data itself. So what happens is in practice, calculating probability of failure is very difficult. And now this is only for linear because only R minus Q or R by Q only was there. But in reality, if you have more random variables, the things will be non-linear will come. Then the parent distributions may not be known. So the problem what happens is the calculation of probability of failure becomes very difficult actually. Okay, so we will not be able to, calculate this probability of failure. But some simple cases we can calculate, but things will be very, very difficult actually in practice. So so for this purpose, we define this concept of reliability index. Okay. So it is something like this. Okay. So previously also you remember when we discussed about random variables probability. So if you want to characterize a random variable, say, how do you characterize a random variable? No. If you want to characterize a random variables, you should know about what is that you should know.
Mean and standard deviation.
No, mean and standard deviation is different. But if you want to characterize a random variable, say, so you should know its probability density function. You followed our distribution. But as already I told you, right, in reality, you may not have the luxury to compute that's a probability density or distribution. So if you don't know the density or distribution, so what is the easiest thing you can compute with little data? Yeah, just now, Siddharth, you told, right? You can compute only
Mean and standard deviation.
mean and standard deviation only. So with those two numbers are, can you simplify? Okay, like you remember the concept of movements also, why it came in probability theory. The reason was, we are constructing a probability density or distribution is very difficult. That's why this mean, standard deviation and all those things came into picture. So here also, this, if you want to do mathematically, this is how you have to calculate probability of failure. But in reality, it is very difficult. The performance function may be non-linear, and you may be having so many, the random variables will be there. Then, multi-dimensional integrals, So if you are having a 10-story building, so you assume that the moment of inertia of each beam is random, then metal things are random, loads are random, so many random variables, say. Then, it will be very, very difficult. And if you have, 10 random variables, then this integration will be, you have to do that 10 times, so it becomes very, very complex in calculations. So this concept of reliability index, this came into picture basically. So we will, of course, reliability will explain. We will start with some simple things, and then the concept is like this. So what we try to do is, so if you take this, so there are many methods are there or whatever. So this concept is very, very simple. So this concept of reliability index came from, this, if we are having a linear, say, the performance function is linear. Okay, the linear, the performance function. So the performance function is linear. So simply R minus Q or just like that. And if the random variables, say, if they are normal random variables, you follow. All are normal random variables, say. So then, right, the normal distribution, the main advantage is if you know the mean and standard deviation, say, you can draw the probability density function itself. Only two unknowns only are required, basically. So now my performance function is simply R minus, the Q. So as already we said, right? So if R is normal random variable and Q is also normal, say, what will be G, the performance function? So this will be, both are normal. So what will be your performance function? So what type of random variable it will be?
Or normal.
Why? Because it is a linear relation. Okay, so this also is a normal random variable only. Okay, and so now if I know the mean value of R, standard deviation of R, then mean value of Q, standard deviation of Q, which already we solved this problem previously. So my probability of failure, so this also will be a normal random variable. So this G will be also normal random variable, and its mean value will be simply, we have done already, okay, x1, all those things. So mu R minus mu Q, this will be its mean value, and then its standard deviation will be sigma R square plus, sigma S square. Okay, so this sigma Q square. Okay, so this is also normal random variable. So now once you know the normal random variables, so simply you have to find out the probability of failure is probability of this G, say, this is less than 0 itself. So my probability of failure, because it is a normal random variable, no, so it's very easy actually. So you have to take a standard normal. So 0 minus, mu R minus mu S by using the standard deviation is using sigma R square plus sigma S square actually. So this is our, the probability density R. If you write probability of failures, I can also write this as 1 minus phi. Okay. So of, mu R minus mu S by sigma r square plus sigma s square. So this is how we can write. So this is my phi. So this is the standard the normal distribution basically. Okay. So this is how we can calculate the probability of failure. So like it's very simple. So this is our G say. Okay, this is our distribution for G. So you have to find out probability that G is less than 0. Okay, so this portion has to be you followed it. You find out. So now depending on this mean and standard deviations, you transform into this one. So you will get this is my probability of failure actual. Now here the quantity say. So I will write this is nothing but the cumulative distribution, probability distribution function of the standard normal variant. Okay, so this is our so now the probability, so this quantity is what inside this brackets. Okay, this quantity we call this as the reliability index. So this quantity is known as the reliability index. It is indicated by the symbol beta. Okay, so which is given by mu of this one by sigma of G. So this is mu r minus mu q. Sorry, this is q only, right? Q. No. So mu r minus mu q divided by sigma r square plus sigma s square. So this is what we call as the reliability index, and my probability of failure is given by 1 minus the standard normal variate of this beta function. So this is how we calculate this the reliability index. So this you can write for normal distributions and others in a very simple fashion. So now for normal say, so like you see the probability of failure, we can make a nice you can just have a feeling beta. Okay, so suppose the probability of failure if it is 10 to the power of minus 1 say, so beta is 1.28. Usually you can calculate from the standard normal table. So now 10 to the power of minus 2 say, so beta is 2.33. Okay, for normal. Now similarly, if you can go this one, so for 10 to the power of minus 9, so the value is 5.99, and for 10 to the power of minus 4 say, so this value turns out to be 3.71. So this is how the numbers looks like actual. So if I know the beta say, I can calculate my probability of failure. So the reliability index is basically defined as simply the ratio of mean towards the standard deviation. So mean of your performance function, whatever you have, and the standard deviation say. You can write like this. So beta, if you know beta, you know everything about the probability of failure basically. Okay. So this is how the reliability concept came. Of course, this was valid only for linear and then the normal random variable. Now we have to make some adjustments. So this is how the reliability index is fundamentally defined like this. Now here this is defined as r minus q. Okay. Now suppose as already I told you, in many of the cases say, see the load and this one the load and the resistance, what type of random variables they will be. Here we have assumed them to be normal distribution, but in reality resistance and loads, what type of random variables are there, whether normal as assumption is good for them. So normal means the sample space lies from minus infinity to plus infinity, but in reality what will be the resistance and this one.
The positive quantities 0
So
to
positive quantities means what type of things you can use. The best assumption is so the things are positive say minus infinity to plus infinity. Now your sample space is 0 to infinity say. So you can assume them to be instead of normal, you can assume them to be
so log normal.
log random variable. Okay. So if R and Qs, if they are normal, log normal random variables also, so we can calculate. Previously, we have done this one. So now how do you do this? Now what is your performance function? So instead of writing R minus Q or whatever, so remember, we will write this as R by Q itself. So if you take log Y say, so then this becomes log of R minus log of Q. Okay. And now what is log y? What type of random variable is log y? R and Q are log normal random variables. So what will be a log of y? What will be log of R? What type of random variability?
Normal.
They will be normal. So log R is normal. Log Q is also normal. So what will be log y? See, this is also normal distribution. Okay, this is also normal. So what will be this normal, this distribution?
Normal, sir.
Normal only, because it is all linearly, related itself. So here also we can calculate. So my probability of failure, say, okay. So now this log y is also, a normal random variable. So it is also with the mean value is, so some I don't call as a mu r, and the mean value of r and mean value of q is there. But here, because we are writing in terms of logarithms, so I will write this as lambda r minus lambda of s, and then some psi square, this r plus some psi square is s actual. So lambda r, lambda q, they are the mean value of log r, log q, and standard deviation is this zeta r and then zeta q. So these are the values basically. So my probability of failure set, I can use the same expression whatever I have written previously. So standard normal variate, and then you see lambda r minus lambda of a q by, you see, the square root, say this square r plus the square q itself. So this is my probability of failure. Now you can convert this lambdas and zeta into the original mean value of r qr or this load itself. Now the lambdas and zetas are related to log r, log q. Now you have with r and q, so you can easily convert from log normal to this one. So I can write this expression as 1 minus this phi, okay, a log of mu r by mu s. So this is a mean value of s, mean value of load, okay, and 1 plus coefficient of variation, say del square q by 1 plus del square the r, okay. So these are the coefficient of variations divided by square root of, say, log of 1 plus del square r, 1 plus del square the q. So this is how we calculate. So mu r, mu q, they are nothing but the mean and standard deviation of r and q, whereas lambda is related to lambda, lambda r, lambda q are nothing but the mean and standard mean of the log r logarithm terms. Okay, so now if you substitute the original terms, say, so you can get like this, and you can simplify this. Basically, the coefficient of variations are so this much. So finally, so I can write this expression as 1 by phi. Okay, so log of mu r by mu s, because these coefficient of variations are very, very small, because coefficient of variation is related to so you remember what is coefficient of variation? It is nothing but the ratio of the standard deviation to the mean value. Okay, so this is because the coefficient of variations will be very small, so this turns out to be you can make some approximation r plus del square, you see, q itself. I can write like this also. So this is my probability of failure. So now the beta, say, the reliability index, I can write this as, so phi inverse, say, okay, of 1 minus probability of failure, because probability of failure is 1 minus phi of beta. Okay, so now I reverse this expression, and if I substitute p of f from these quantities, and then I do all kinds of simplifications, I can write this as logarithm mu r by mu s divided by del square r plus sorry q del square q. So this is my reliability index actual. Okay, so you can calculate this even for log normal random variables, but you make that logarithm so to make it linear, and finally you convert into normal, and then you can calculate this expressions also. So this is valid for log normal random variable, this beta, but whereas this is valid for, you see, the normal random variables. So this is how you can calculate the reliability index basically. So now the main advantage of reliability index is you can probability of failure, both of them are interconnected. Okay, so this is a very easy thing, and then it is the advantage is it is defined as just the ratio of the mean value to the sorry, a mean value to the standard deviation. Okay, that is a concept of this reliability index. Okay, so now you followed. So now let us I think. And suppose if there are more random variables also, we can calculate this reliability index. Suppose if I have my performance functions, say x1, x2 up to xn. So let us say I have several, it has something like this a1 x1 plus an times xn, say. So I can write this as a0 plus sigma I is equal to 1 to n ai into xi, say. Okay, so it is a summation of several normal random variables. All are normal random variables. Yeah. So now what will be the performance function? So performance function is a combination of so many random variables, say. So if it is now, what will be the reliability index? The reliability index, what's the definition for reliability index? If things are linear and if they are all of them are normal random variables and they're all independent, say. So what is the definition of beta? How did we calculate previously? So beta is defined as if it is a normal, if it is a linear, say. What is the definition of beta?
So ratio of mean to the standard deviation.
Standard deviation. So now what is the mean value? So this is my performance function. So what is the mean value? What is the mean value of sum of several normal random variables? See, like r plus s, if x1 plus x2, say, if this is y, what is the mean value of y? If x1, x2 are normal, so what will be the mean value of y? So if I have two random variables, they are normal. Okay, so what will be the mean value of y? Their summation.
It's mean of x1 plus mean of x2.
Excellent. So mean of x1 plus x2. So now there are so many random variables, and of course a0 is a constant. So it will be simply a0 plus sigma, I is equal to 1 to n ai into mean value of xi actually. So this is the mean value. Now in the denominator, you should have its standard deviation. So long back, we have already done this type of problems. Okay. So if I have now, what is the standard deviation of y? Okay. The mean value standard deviation of y, say, we know we have already done, I did these problems long back. Okay. So your denominator will be, so simply the square root, I is equal to, you see, 1 to n. Okay. So ai sigma, xi whole square actual. Okay. So this is the standard. So this is how we can calculate, the reliability, you see, the index itself. So now to just have an idea, say, okay, so let us do some simple problem. So we will take a simply supported beam. Now, so this is a simply supported beam we have. So now it has a UDL also. Okay, some W. Then it also has a load that is P. A concentrated load is also acting here, and the length is the span is L basically. Okay, and now where W, P, and then the design values, all of them are random values. The assumption is so the P is random, W is random, then Fy, that's the yield strength or whatever. So these three are random variables. It's a simple problem. Okay, so these are all the random variables itself. Now there and let us assume that they are all normal also. If you don't know anything, if the best assumption is normal distribution, because you can calculate things easily. So now the mean values of the W is some 3. It is given in British units, key by foot or whatever. And then the standard deviation, say, of this W is 0.3 k by foot. So this is the mean value of W. And then similar fashion, say, so we have a mean value of P. So this is some 10.2 times this one, and then the standard deviation is 1.12 some k. So these are the units. Now the design value for f of y. So the mean value, say, of the f of y has been given as some 40.3 some KSI, some British units, and the standard deviation, say, is some 4.64 some KSI. So these are the units. So now we have to calculate the reliability index for this problem. If you know the reliability index, so you can calculate probability of failure also. So now, so what is the first step? So now P loads have been given, resistance, all of them are random variables. Okay, and now how do you write what is the limit state here? So what is that? So first step is you should be able to write the limit state or the failure. What is the failure here? What is the limit state you will assume here? So generally in design of beams, say, what do you mean by failure? Of course, serviceability you delete here. Let us say only we are interested in the load carrying capacity.
We check the
For
flexural
beams,
strength.
it is a
Flexural strength we have to check.
Structural strength, moment carrying capacity, or whatever. So if it is a steel beam, the resistance, Fy into Z. So this is my resistance of the beam, section modulus, and then the bending moment, say. So now we have having a concentrated load, and we are also having this UDL also. So dump everything. So this becomes a PL by 4, then minus a W into L square by 8 actual. So this is my performance function. So these two are coming from the load. This is my resistance. Okay, the moment carrying capacity, we write like this. So now here the problem is linear or non-linear in terms of the random variables. See, what are the random variables here?
Sir, it's linear.
Yeah, it is linear because this is linear, this is linear, this is linear actual. Suppose if I would have said Z is also, random, L is also random, so then, there will be a lot of, non-linearity and other things will come into picture. Okay. So let us, it's a simple problem. So Fy, P, W are all linear and everything is, normal and very easy say. So now we write, so G, P of W, F of Y. So you substitute all those things. Okay. So like you see length or whatever, the length is given as some 18 feet. Okay. So you use all the things, you just substitute. Say. So this turns out to be 80 times Fy minus 54 times P minus 5832 times W. So this is units are in K and inches actually. Okay. So foot has been converted. So this is a linear relationship. Okay. So you have Fy, P, and then the W. So this is my performance function. So now how many random variables are there? Basically there are 3 random variables are there. So we have said, right, so this is my expression, so A0 plus A1 this one. So only thing now right now A0 is not there, so you are having A1 is this one, A2 is minus 54. Okay, then this is A3 minus 5832. So now use that expression. So my beta will be A0 plus that same expression I can use. So sigma I is equal to 1 to n. So AI into mu of xi divided by the square root say. I is equal to 1 to n. So AI into sigma xi whole square. So substitute all those numbers. Okay. So finally this turns out to be 80 into 40.3 minus 54 say into 10.2 minus 5832. 0.25. Okay, divided by you sum up all those things. Okay, I will write some of them. 80 multiplied by 4.64 whole square plus. Okay, so you have all the terms will be there, minus 54 into 1.12. Okay, so this is a whole square. Sorry, this entire thing whole square. Okay, so A into sigma xi. Plus we have the other term also, minus 5832 into 0.025. So this entire thing whole square. So you have this square root. Okay, so this has to be calculated. So finally this turns out to be 1215.2 by 403.7. Now 403.37. So this turns out to be 3.01. So this is my reliability index. So now how do you calculate probability of failure? So what is the probability of failure? So if you know the reliability index, say, so how my probability of failure will be simply 1 minus phi of this beta. So now for 3.01, so what is the probability of failure? So just now I wrote this table, right? So for 3 point this one say, so the probability of failure will be how much? So approximately, say for 10 to the power of minus 4 it is 3.71. 10 to the power of minus 2 is 2.33. Now if it is 10 to the power of minus 3 say, my reliability index will be approximately 3.09 actually. So for this problem say, what's the probability of failure? The value of reliability index is 3.01. So now you can calculate from the normal that standard normal also. So for 3.01, so the probability, so approximately this turns out to be 10 to the power of minus 3 actually. So what is your comment on the beam? No. So whether this beam will fail or safe or unsafe? How much is the safety level, or how much it is unsafe or safe now this beam?
So it is safe.
It is safe only, but it is unsafe also, you can say. But the probability of the beam collapse, say, that is your limit state of strength getting violated is only 10 to the power of -3, which is very, very small kind of quantity also. Okay, so this way we can find out the reliability, the indexes. Okay, and once you know reliability index, you can calculate the probability of failure itself using this expression. Now, suppose if the limit state functions are non-linear, how do we handle the limit state function? Now everything was linear only. Suppose the random variables may be normal, but if the limit state is non-linear functions here, so how do we calculate? Previously we have done, right? How do we calculate if the things are non-linear? So this function is non-linear function. So what do we do?
So we use Taylor series to convert it into linear function.
So previously we have done, right? You have to write in terms of Taylor series expansion. You followed. So, but here it will be multi-dimensional Taylor series. If there are more random variables and more these ones. So what we do is we expand the Taylor series. The first term we will do around its mean values only. Okay. Plus we have this higher order terms comes into picture. I is equal to 1 to n x minus xi star. That is the mean values, and then you will have the derivative. So dou g by dou xi, and this has to be calculated at. So you have to evaluate at x1 star, x2 star, like this up to xn the star itself. So now we try to find out and then of course we will be having the second order, third order, and fourth order. So now generally how many orders we take? So to make it linear, say, like previously we have done this example, generally we truncate it up to.
So first order.
So if you truncate up to first order, so then things may be easily linear itself. You remember? So this we already did. So this we do as mu x1, mu x2, like this up to mu xn. Okay. So plus sigma I is equal to 1 to n xi minus mu of xi multiplied by dou g by dou xi, followed, and you have to evaluate at the mean values. So these how we calculate our this itself. So now once you have linearized these expressions here, so now my reliability index beta. Okay, so this will be simply the mean value. So the mean of x1, mean of x2 up to the mean value of xn divided by you have a standard deviation. So so you have linearized the function itself. So sigma I is equal to 1 to n. Okay, so ai into sigma xi whole square. So where ai say is dou g by dou xi. Okay, which you have to evaluate it at the mean values. Okay, so you can, so if it is a non-linear function, say, so you expand in terms of Taylor series, and then you find out once you have Taylor series, and if you include only the first order terms, things automatically become linear only. Okay, so once things are linear, say, then the straightforward only, that mean by the standard deviation you take, and then you can compute your reliability index. So once you have reliability, then you can compute the probability of failure itself. So this method say, so since you have, so this method what we call as the first order second movement method. Something like a first order second movement FOSM, or you followed it like this. We call this type of expansions. The reason why first order, this order comes from the Taylor series. How many orders you are using? So we are going only, we are including terms only up to first order. The second movement means why we are using the second movement. The reason is to calculate the reliability index. What is that you require to calculate reliability index? What is the numerator? What is the denominator?
We want the first moment and second moment.
So second movement. So this word second movement comes from the beta calculations. because you require only the up to second moment only. We are not including skewness or kurtosis or higher moments. So that's why we call this as a first order second moment. Suppose if you include terms up to second order also, say, then what happens? The Taylor series you include second order terms, say. So then this becomes a second order second movement method. You follow? So like that, this name, people in textbooks they write FOSM, like that they write. Okay, so the meaning of this method is first order second movement method. That is how you have to understand actually. So now so to make just if you see one typical example for this one, we already did this thing. So like for RCC beam, okay, some RCC beam, the limit state function or the moment carrying capacity, okay, the moment carrying capacity. So of some RCC beam, say, is given by this expression. So A, B, I think it is AS, that is steel area, sorry, the steel area multiplied by Fy. So depth will be there 0.59 AS into Fy by FC dash B. So like some complicated, you see the expression is there. Okay, the bending moment carrying capacity. So now my performance function, say, so the G, FC dash into B. So my performance function for this problem is AS, and let me write this properly. So the random variables are area of steel, or maybe you see Fy, then F dash C, then load is a Q. So this is my performance function. So AS into Fy into D minus 0.59 AS into Fy whole square by FC dash into B minus Q. So this is my performance function. Okay. So now here the random variables are, this is random, this is random, this is random, and this is random. So now whether this is linear or non-linear.
Non-linear.
So it is a non-linear function. Okay, it is not linear, and only the mean values. So like you see, the mean values are known to you, Fy and this one. So now you have to expand this in terms of a Taylor series, and you include only terms up to the first order. So this function first you have to expand in terms of Taylor series. So the first term you have to evaluate the function at the mean value. So that will be mu of AS, mu of Fy, then D, okay, minus point F9, okay. So mu of AS, then mu of F of Y whole square. So this is the mean value divided by mu of F dash C multiplied by B minus mu of the Q. So this is the first term in the Taylor series. That is the mean value. Now the second terms will have the derivatives will come. So AS minus mu into AS multiplied by dou G by dou of AS. So this you have to evaluate this derivative. So this you have to evaluate at the mean values. Okay. So the first order terms you have to include all the Fy minus mean of Fy. Okay. Dou G by dou Fy. So evaluate at the mean value plus we have F dash C minus mu of F dash C. Dou G by dou F dash C. So this also you have to evaluate at the mean value plus Q. So Q minus mu of Q. Dou G by dou Q. So this also you have to evaluate at the mean value. So this is only the first order terms in the Taylor series. So it is very easy to calculate. What is the dou G by dou F of Y? The dou G by dou S, say. So you can use this expression to find out the derivatives easily. Okay, so dou G by dou F of Y, say. So this expression goes here. Wherever F of Y is there, you have to calculate these expressions. So this easily you can compute from the expressions. So your A1 is dou G by dou of A of S, say. Okay, so this quantity will be Fy into D minus 0.F9 into 2 times AS Fy square by Fc dash into B. So this is the derivative. Okay. Now this derivative you have to evaluate at the mean values. Okay. So you have to substitute the mean value of F of Y, the mean value of AS, mean value of F dash C, and mean value of all the mean values you supply, say. So this becomes a constant actually. So similarly A2. So this is a dou G by dou F of Y. So this also you find out the derivative from this expression, and then you evaluate at the mean value, you will get a constant. So similarly A3. So dou G by dou F dash C Then similarly A4 say dou G by dou Q. So you calculate all the derivatives basically. And this derivative you have to evaluate at the mean value. So finally what happens is, your performance function say. So if you substitute, so you will get all the numbers here. So once you get A1, A2, A3 and all other terms here, so now you substitute in this expression, that is, this quantity. So A1, A2, A3, so you find out, all the terms here. So, sorry, this quantity you have to do. It's not. Just 1 second. So now once once you have all the terms say, so now you calculate the reliability index by this the expression. Okay, so the mean values here and then ai into sigma xi, where your ai's are nothing but these derivatives also. So you calculate all of them and then you substitute in this expression itself. Okay, so once you know all these numbers itself, so now once you know the beta say, so then you can easily find out the probability of failure by simply this normal 1 minus phi of the beta. Followed. So this is how we can calculate. So this derivation, say whatever we have done, so this is what we call this as first order second movement method. Okay, so now here the assumption is Taylor series, you are including terms up to first order, and then they may be random, they may be normal or whatever it may be there, say. So this is an assumption. Okay, and then you can calculate reliability index using this expression itself. Okay, so fine. I will stop here. We will continue in our the next class. So if you have any doubts, you can ask me.